Okay, so this is last talk, so I won't be very long, not to try not to keep you before parting, so let's start. Who I am the guy who's working for a CertPL, doing mostly malware research. As a hobby, I work. I play in CTFs with Dragon Sector and doing exploitation there. My main interest is automatization of things and formal methods, so symbolic execution is something I like and do a lot. And Angry is actually a quite shitty tool. So that's my Twitter, and I was playing for Lock Shields as a Polish blue team member for last 2 years. I'm not playing this year because I'm here, and the execution is going right now. It's the second day, so they probably buried in much of the work. So, well, there was the idea I will be streaming them live, but they don't agree for it. I don't know why. So quick agenda. I'll talk a little bit what the lock shields are, and some things about blue team, red team, other teams that are playing in and have a participation there, and some stories we managed to encounter during those 2 years. So I was approached by my boss some time ago and asked, there is a cyber maneuvers, do you want to participate in there? And I was like, what? So that was something I was imagining that it looked like that. They give us keyboards and we throw them at our enemies or what's not. But after some explanation, it turns out it's they're attacking and a bunch of computers, a lot of soldiers attacking themselves. And that will be fun if you look that way. Unfortunately, it looks like that. So you have a lot of work to do, and not many people. So in more concrete terms, lock shields are the cyber maneuvers created by NATO. It runs for I think 5 or 6 years now. It's not only NATO members. There are a couple of others, but mostly Europeans. It's the point of it is to exercise how the defending actually works in combat, not attacks as well, because that's most of the power and most of things are put it on side of the blue teams, and there are a lot of work there. But part of you have to give a couple of people to blue teams, but you can assign as well a couple of people to red teams, so they can exercise offensive security as well. Some numbers, you can read it. This like blah 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 is on the side. So a couple of numbers, if I don't remember, it's like so they are from last year. It's 600 members that was participating. 2,000 systems, 20 teams. Blue team member 40. Oh, you can read it. I don't have to read it for you. I think you can read it. Okay, cool. So as you can see, it's quite a lot. It's not the small one, and that's how it looks. This is a visualization of the network, and that's something because they try to create very realistic networks with a lot of different things. So the first layer is obviously the layer network. You have to connect between different countries and talk to them, attack them, defend from them, attack from red teams. And that's how the one blue team infrastructure looked like last year. Except for the red parts. The red parts were only for red team. So, for example, we don't know that there was a rogue IP. Why not? At some point it starts popping up and popping servers. So that's I don't know, 20, 40 machines with different kinds of Linuxes, Windowses. There is a BSD somewhere here. Here's a BSD. There's a SCADA. There's a drone, whatever. Routers, firewalls, whatever. So it's a huge infrastructure, a lot of work. This year they removed the limitation for people, and last year and the year before, the limitation was 12 people for whole this network, and not only for this network, because since this is a military, so they are structured, right? So they have to have someone that's running it. So there is a CEO, and there is a second CEO for because you need to have an adjutant, probably. And there are other things that we're talking about, like there is problems with law and journalism and stuff like that, forensic. So basically, you get 8 working technical people to defend this shitload of the systems. That's why the slide with the one guy with 7 hands. And there is another addition. Since this is a live system, they have a blondie. And the blondie is your normal user, right? It gets emails, clicks on everything, infects your machines, and complains every day. My system doesn't work. I cannot look at my I would say something quite offensive, so I stop myself. I cannot look at kittens or what's not. YouTube is not working. You're blocking my access. Passwords need to be changed, stuff like that. But mostly you run malware on your every system. Some scoring, because they have to be the best one and the worst one. Most important part was the availability of the services, actually. So you have availability and something else, and usability. So they distinguish between availability, so the server is actually living and running, and usability if it's responding correctly to the actual tests. And, since this was, you have to defend, so the attacks were also important. And there were some injects, like additional live moments, like someone kill your servers or what's not, or the journalist found out that you are hacking back or stuff like that. Normal live bullshit. Some penalties for since you want to defend yourself, you want to stay always online, so there are the penalties if you have to restart VMs or what's not, stuff like that. Normal things you can think about. So a little bit about Blue Team. That's how we actually were split it. I don't know if every team was something like that, but basically you split yourselves based on things you have to defend, right? So there was some custom and not only custom, also normal web applications, some Windows workstations that was to defend, Linux workstations. There was a drone and some SCADAs, network attacks like PGP hijacks, stuff like that. Some media, some people that were responsible to contact with media, because you have to inform someone that your site was defaced. Organization, like I said, the CEO stuff and things. Before you inform media about things, you have to consult your log guy about it. And there was a forensic assignment as well. It was quite simple. You had to 2 VMs or something. You have to acquire memory from it and perform investigation how the site was hacked and used to attack someone else. Different problems for different years, but basically the same forensic shit. Some tools that we or every others are trying to use. One thing that you can not only have access to those machines, you came with your own 2 machines. That's much, apparently, for them. One is for forensic, so it's useless, and the second one you can use your tools. You put some tools on it because you cannot run, everything on the workstations. But the size of the machine is not very big, but it's like 42 gigas, so that's kind of okay. So basic things, IDS, EPS, SAV, skips. Seems we tried to use Splunk last year, and it wasn't working at all. This year they bought a license, and they fill up the license in 2 hours, during test run, not the actual exercises. No, that's something I forgot to mention. So the exercise is split in 2 parts, let's say. They give it, you can say free. So they give a notice about it in March or something, I'm not sure. I'm mostly getting information about it in the beginning of the March. So they have a preparation time, assemble the team, assemble Avengers, whatever. Then you have a testing period, right? You've written your tools, you have your preparation going on, team split it by assignments, and then you have access for 2 days, 3 days actually. 3 days to your environment, to test your stuff, to get yourself familiar with the environment, and after that they wipe it off and start again. So you have 1 day more before execution, and there is a 2 day of execution itself. Yep. Since this is military, they start at 7 a.m. That's fantastic for me. Okay, so back to tools. there is a lot of pressure put on collaboration between teams. So and one of the sponsors or organizers at Laysian, I think, so they use their collab system, Bootstrap and what's not, to collaborate and exchange information between teams and between other organizers. So that's something and you have to use it a lot to communicate. Excuse me. Well, something to exchange notes. Like we use Etherpad for it for a couple of years. It works quite well. And since this is your strange infrastructure, you don't know really how to operate on this. There are a shitload of the code that you wrote for yourself, like scripts to monitor and maintain, administrate, what's not. I think I wrote like 6,000 lines of Python and shell combined. And for forensic, the normal tools like Remnux or whatever, I don't know forensic at all. So about some information about red teaming. I don't know much because I wasn't part of a red team, and I talked only to a couple of those couple of years ago, not remember anything. But basically they are split in four groups: the networking attacks, client-side attacks, and web attacks, and obviously organization stuff. And tools, the main tool for client-side and the client-side part of the red team is most visible and mostly described in after-action reports that they're releasing afterwards. So they used Strike, probably because Rafal Much is a sponsor and partner of this exercise. So if they use Strike, they use custom Strike scripts. I know shitload of post PowerShells were used and dropped, and it was probably a big problem at the beginning for defenders because they were not familiar with scripts. For obfuscation, Shelter, Valley, some custom crypter were made, and some collaboration tools as well. So there are 4 phases that were visible for players. It's a phase 1 for that the attackers try to obtain, first recon a little bit the infrastructure, your tools, and get initial access. Then they try to maintain the access and elevate their privileges, steal some confidential data, stuff, and going on. And the fourth phase is when there is no barriers, nothing at all. This real havoc and shits runs from skies. To be successful, there are other teams that are not composed from the countries that are participating, but from the organizers. There's a yellow, green, and white team. One is responsible for injects, one is responsible for network, and the organizers itself. Okay, so I will ask if you have any questions about it so far. If I didn't miss anything, I need something more before I go to some stories. Okay, seems okay. And so let's go. So first story is the Bootstrap. So I was invited to this and was told by our keynote speaker that there are backdoors everywhere, and you have to fear because everything you do will be backdoored, and you don't know. Actually, you cannot trust your tools and your environment at all. So I said, fuck it. I wrote something that actually they're removing everything from it. So if every server is backdoored and I cannot trust my tools, so I need to write my own, or use my own. So the best way, since most of the tools were either Debians or Ubuntu's, so that makes it easy. I was responsible for Linuxes, obviously. I have no idea about Windowses. I only can reverse malware on those. So the best idea was to debootstrap them from the scratch. Probably you cannot use it normally because there is a chance that dpkg and vuget and what's not are backdoored and are running something else. So let's just use BuzzyBox precompiled, statically linked, totally safe. So that's something like this. But since we're bootstrapping and doing something that there is never enough backdoors, right? It was spoiled at the beginning. I wasn't there, but at the morning. So what we did, we actually put another backdoor in those backdoors so we can maintain access. To make it easy and not possible to access for a red team, don't give them another access, we used custom SSL back connect, not back connect, but bind shell. I was thinking about writing it in C, but said, fuck it, Python is faster. So faster was done. Python is good for this. You can create quite nice, hide it quite nice if you just pipe it through Python interpreter, not leaving any files on disk. One other thing I was working on is a drone. It's always fun to hack the drone, right? That was the only part that was actually close to red teaming, or something red on part of the blue teams. You have a drone that you're trying to control, but you don't have access to it. You can only send comments to it. But so you have to. There was some custom C++ application that was quite easy to analyze and pawn. So I wrote a couple of bugs there. You have to take over it, then you can fix it and try to get rid of the red team from there. It was actually kind of fun because we were chasing each other. They were trying to remove my shells. I was removing their shells, and going forth and forth. It was kind of fun. This year, they actually trying to remove the drone as a custom web application, the custom C++ application. They give them a real drone to some extent, not the real drone probably as a hardware, but the protocol they are using is actually a real protocol that is used in drones right now. And they don't have to hack it, they have to only defend it. That's as far as I know. Other thing was a SCADA. I know shit about SCADA. Our colleagues know shit about SCADA. So, well, that was a problem. It actually was real Siemens PLCs going to be defended. There was a Windows machine. Please go a couple of slides before. There is a SCADA thing. Was only access. So the road to here was kind of complex for a red team because they have to go through firewalls to let that only one machine to being popped. So since they are involving at the first time, it wasn't very complex. There was a real PLCs, but they were not used. Was only a red button that you have to protect. It was a custom .NET application, and you cannot do anything about it. Only keep pushing the button so if they manage to push a red button, you have to push green button to reset the plant. The PLC were protecting or running, I don't know, running a power plant that was powering your servers. So if the power plant went down, your servers were down, and you basically lose. This last year, they removed the .NET application and use actual real stuff. For Siemens, you have to program it and things like that. I don't know much about it because I'm not the specialist on it. Funny thing, 2 years ago when they were attacking since it was a custom .NET application, it renders at the phase 4 a couple of teams. They actually just removed the DLLs and made trash of it, so it was crashing. Application wasn't working. That was a huge problem for teams because no one had the backups, because fuck backups. Another funny thing, well, let's go back in once. I have a lot of time. This is this one crucial thing, right? The phase 4 always is always the funniest one because there are no boundaries. You can do everything, and they can do everything for you. So they attack the firewall. The firewall is obviously backdoored. When you do a trace on OS, it tries to connect to something. That's not normal behavior for OS. Well. No. Apparently you have to have kitties somewhere, so I put some kitties. So when it was the game back and forward, right? We were trying to find there was not only one backdoor. There was a backdoors in SSH and stuff like that. Normal things, added keys. So they were trying to reboot our firewall, block the IP table, remove every IP table rule we had there, and block us away. We try to remove them. The biggest problem is we cannot do anything to them. That's kind of lame, but apparently it's illegal to hack everyone else, which is not true because I hacked some drones and tried to restore them. So that was the only fun part about hacking things. Since the problem was with drones and that most of the blue teams were composed from defenders, not attackers, so they have little to none idea about exploitation, so they don't know how to take over the drones. So helping was kind of rewarded because extra cooperation and stuff like that. That's something you can brag about in papers. So media have run on it, and so the good thing was you can hack other drones and give them access or not, or crash them or stuff like that. Okay, so the Battle of Firewall. The Battle of Firewall, we managed to keep our sessions with a couple of reboots, based mostly because of the Python backdoor. And apparently some funny thing is, I don't know why, but when we had Windows, normal Linux SSH sessions, when they removed the firewall rules and blocked them, everything was down. Our sessions were down. But one other guy had a Windows and a couple of PuTTY sessions opened, and they will stay alive. I don't know why, but apparently our defense was open like 20 or 40 PuTTY sessions on his computer and waiting what happens. When our dies, we go to the guy, move the fuck out, and take over his computer to manage to recover. And we managed to stay on top. At the last, I think, 2 minutes of the exercise, someone just turned down our VM server for it. Well, probably from VMware, but I don't know why, how. Some lessons. First thing to do, every time on Linux, remove access password. Apparently not every team was doing this, and they were popped by just default passwords. Remove them, use SSH keys. That's the best and the basic get away from this exercise for most of the defenders. Backdoor everything, obviously. When you lose access, you need to regain access, and you have some backdoors. It's easy. Do it, but do it smart, right? Don't do it custom. Don't do it hardcore password. Use some serious cryptography, like SSL or what's not. SSL certs. Don't trust your AVs. That's actually, I will expand on this a little bit later, in a few minutes. And one thing about being a blue team member is there is never, that's the idea, there is never too much logging. You need as much information as you can get. Well, except if you have to look on them manually. Because the CMs are not, you probably have to use a normal license for ArcSight or also that they're kind of expensive to buy. So they were not that easy to do. You have to only one machine, so you have to choose carefully what you're actually trying to use. But yeah, logging, too much logging if you have used your own eyes already is actually not that good. When you write custom scripts, try to think about that something will be fucked up and you cannot control every environment. That's actually, who does know how their Linux AV actually works like? So the thing was, my tools were, at some point we're trying we're updating the system, and the AV that was put it on, it was a race condition basically, but with other guys, but they put AVs on and I was trying to restart the systems. And the AV was not very likely to run under new libcs, and since they were LD preloaded, they fucked up all the system. It was totally unusable for a whole part of the execution. That was secondary DNS, so that was kind of a problem for us. But we managed to reroute it to another machine and use secondary DNS from somewhere else, so no one actually noticed that one of our machine is totally down for every time. And that will be me. Do you have any questions? I cannot give you mine.
Okay, maybe I just try. You've mentioned that you haven't worked with Splunk during the exercise, so actually what did you use for SIEM?
We did not use any SIEM.
Okay.
Well, we used, as I said, kind of manual logging. We started audited with logging of syscalls and executed things, and tried to, the custom roles that were pinging us on if something that was strange happened, like, the binary that shouldn't do connects to some network that is probably controlled by red team. So that was a, let's say, custom, very basic CM. This year, I think they are trying to do some CMs. It's around Splunk, but I have no idea how they will be doing this and how they will work. So the question was if we thought about Elasticsearch. Yes, but as I said, we have one machine with 42 gigabytes of RAM, and it won't work. we need to put the Suricata there and stuff. That actually can help us more than CM. We don't really need to go, every time back to see how the compromise was made. We need to only see the compromise that was made. So the storage is actually not that important. Well, I think they are, and most of that questionable tactics are probably mine, not the actual guys. And I don't have like high limits on what I can do. I like doing stuff that are kind of on the limits. But as I said, there is a legal team, right? So they proposed to justify our steps. To make it, and they are working on the real legal framework, not the mixed one. So I guess, so that's something, and I'm quite sure it's serving their purpose because the guys are having more and more experience on this, and the collaboration part is that's when they are actually putting a lot of effort on it. One of the things I actually missed and forgot to say, one of the parts, and that there is a lot of points on this, is to report the actual incidents and try to help other people, publish information on iOS, or publish IOCs and stuff like that. So that's something.
Yeah, I was going to ask pretty much the same questions. You kind of told me a story about, red team hacking the blue team kind of counter-hacking almost red team or assuming breaches. So what was the big lessons learned? Because this is probably like a huge NATO exercise. I assume the energy behind it, or the time spent on that must be huge. And we've seen assume everything is breached or we backdoor everything. If you abstract from the kind of the hacking stuff, what are the lessons learned for the European NATO or something? Is it that the blue teams need more CMs? Or is it that blue teams need more cooperation? What is the real result beyond assume breaches everywhere?
So the question was, I'll short it, okay? So the question was, what's the real result from this for NATO members, I guess, right? I don't know. Well, I was doing this for fun because it was hard days, but it's fun. From them, I guess that's for sure the knowledge of techniques that are used in real world, what they have to predict that probably can happen. Collaboration is something that's very important. Exchanging informations, and for some part of it, the learning, the part of team that's actually in red team, right? They're learning how to hack, so that's something that's probably important in military as well. Yep.
I'll rephrase the question. Do you think that
On again?
You mentioned a lot of people killing sessions and kind of backdooring stuff. Do you think it's kind of reflects what the real world hackers would do? Because you mentioned the blue teams were learning the techniques of the red team, I'm asking if you believe that what was happening there, like killing someone's SSH sessions and backdooring stuff, is what would happen in the real world.
Well,
so the question is how realistic those attacks are.
So I think very right. That the beginning of the problem is what's the objective, right? So first they have to defend themselves to get any access. That's something that's normal pen testing that we're doing, like normal industry work. I actually focused most on the third phase because it's most fun. That was a problem, and I shouldn't do it. More focus on other things. But their objective then is, to wreak havoc, destroy everything, no limits. So that's if the real hackers will be doing this. I think so. If the objective will be to destroy, blow off the bridges or what's not, destroy the infrastructure to some point. So I think so, but I'm not the military guy. I have no idea about it. I'm doing this for fun, so I cannot tell what's the NATO idea about it. They're doing this, and they get a positive feedback from it. So one thing that's very valuable, I think, and they're expanding it a lot, is the after action reports and the description of how the exercises actually were run, but from their point. From the point of organizers and from the point of the red team. And one thing that's actually very important, after the execution, there is a day or 2 days workshop that works on the recorded traffic from the exercise to show what was happening, how to analyze the traffic, get information from there. So that's something that's very important as well. Something more, or are we done? I think we're done. So thank you.